Well, life across some parts of the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem has come to a standstill. Palestinians are closing their shops, pharmacies, bakeries in solidarity with people in Gaza. They're demanding an immediate ceasefire and want countries around the world to put more pressure on Israel to stop its indiscriminate attacks. Alan Fisher reports from occupied East Jerusalem.
Normally, this would be one of the busiest streets in East Jerusalem. The traffic is normally bumper to bumper. On the pavement, on the sidewalk, well, normally people are walking 3 or 4 across. It's very hard to move here very easily. But today, it's a lot different. And why is that? Because there's a general strike. You see that the shutters are down on all the stores, from the sports shop to the accessory store, to the cafe, to the phone shop. All of them closed today. Now, we've been speaking to some of the shop owners. They say it's a small sacrifice to make a stand in solidarity with the people of Gaza. It's estimated they'll lose around $600 a day today, some more, some less, but they think it's important to make the point that they want to see an end to the war in Gaza. And we've spoken to the people who would normally shop here, and they're being slightly inconvenienced, but they're watching what's happening in Gaza from a distance, and they feel helpless, that they can do nothing. So this is something tangible, something they feel that is showing a measure of support for the people who are under fire in Gaza. And it's not just here in the occupied Jerusalem, it's also happening in the occupied West Bank and internationally as well. We're hearing reports of stores being closed in Amman in Jordan and also in Beirut and Lebanon, all showing global support for the people in Gaza. Now, will it make much of an impact? In Jerusalem, it'll hit the economy slightly because, just look, all of these stores are closed. In the wider Israeli economy, it'll have some impact, but remember, the Israeli economy is struggling anyway because of the cost of the war. And globally, well, there'll be a ripple, but not much. But that's not what's important. What's important is people here are sending a message. It may not be very loud, but they think it's very important to say they want to see an end to the war in Gaza and they want to see it end soon. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, in occupied East Jerusalem.
Let's speak now to Zein Basravi. He's joining us live from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. And Zein, you were at a demonstration earlier in Ramallah where people were showing their solidarity with those in Gaza. What were they telling you?
Well, the day here in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank started very slow for a Monday. It is the beginning of the week, and the stores were all shuttered, schools were closed, no students were attending university classes, all in solidarity with this national strike that organizers hope goes global, a strike in solidarity with the Palestinians of Gaza calling for a ceasefire now. In the square just behind me, there was, for a few hours this afternoon, it became a hub of activity once again. Normally, from dawn to dusk, it is packed and crowded here in the heart of Ramallah, the seat of the Palestinian Authority. But today we only saw a few hours of activity this afternoon when protesters came out and they were chanting all kinds of slogans in calling for an end to the war, calling for an immediate ceasefire, critical of their own government, of President Mahmoud Abbas for not doing more, not being able to do more, anti-Israeli chants, even taunting them at times, saying that we will die so that Palestine can live. Load your bullets in the barrel and shoot at us. We don't care about our deaths. So a great deal of defiance from Palestinians here living in the occupied West Bank. And this economic disruption for a day, it was disruptive, but it was also festive. It was certainly a family affair. Protesters were out with their children. Kids were painting a canvas on the road, decorating it with Palestinian flags, messages of love to the Palestinians of Gaza that are still going through Israeli bombardment. There was a large poster of the faces of children, thousands of whom have been killed since the war on Gaza began, since the Israeli carpet bombing of that area began. So a great deal of support, of solidarity with their fellow Palestinians in Gaza. And people were telling us that it is the least they can do to shutter their shops for a day and stand up in the face of this ongoing Israeli aggression. And oftentimes they say it is the only thing they can do. Palestinians know that they cannot raise a military to rival Israel's. They do not have the backing and support of a military, political, and economic powerhouse like the United States. They don't have any sort of big government at their back. They were telling us that all that they can do is continue to raise their voice and hope that the international community hears their calls for a ceasefire now, their calls for an end to the war in Gaza, their calls for freedom from an occupation that has been going on for decades now, 75 years, 3/4 of a century.
Zein, thank you very much for that. That's Zein Basravi joining us live from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank.